unfortunately. So then it leads to like, well, how should we actually do it? So this will be your introduction to completing the square. You actually move the number now back to the other side of the equation. X squared minus 2x equals 79. And
Mhm.
your goal is to fill in this box.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, how do we do that? Well, you look at the middle number here. You look at the middle number. What is half of this middle number?
-1.
So you write x minus 1. So you divide by 2, and then you square, and that's what goes back in the box there. What is -1 squared?
1, +1.
So +1 plus 1. So this now equals 80.
Oh, okay, okay.
Now, at some point, you learned that when you only have one variable, even if it's squared, you use what's called the square root property or the square root
Yeah.
method. So you don't expand, you don't move this left, you take the square root of both sides.
Mhm.
Okay. So this becomes x minus 1 equals plus or minus. Now, this is a whole separate lesson. Do you remember how to reduce the square root, reduce roots, or reduce like the square root of a number?
Yeah.
Okay. Now you kind of already have the answer. So I'll do this one here. Um,
Mhm.
but it's really important that you are able to do this. It becomes 4 square root of 5. Then from here, you're almost there. You have to add 1 to both sides. When you add 1, you want to put it up in front there.
Yeah. So it's x equals 1 plus or minus 4
Right.
square root of 5.
Yes.
Okay.
And just be careful when you enter these into Pearson. Sometimes they want you to actually separate the answers. Sometimes it's okay to put it in like this.
Mhm.
It just kind of depends.
I think it takes it.
Yeah.
That's good.
All right. So whenever you're ready, we can look at the next one here.
Yes, let me go to that really quick. Okay, yeah.
Okay. So we're gonna work on this problem just like we did the previous one.
Mhm.
We're going to complete the square. So to do this, you always move the constant to the other side of the equation and you leave a space. Often students forget to leave a space. I have the advantage of the colored pencils here, but it's always good to kind of put a box to say, I'm going to put a number there and I'm going to put the same number there.
Mhm.
All right. Now, figuring out that number comes from first cutting this in half. You cut this in half, that's x minus 3 squared, and then you square it to go back. Divide by 2 and then square. So what goes
So +9.
plus 9 plus 9? What does the
Mhm.
right-hand side become?
Um, +4.
Positive 4. Now, if you look back at the answer, it wants you to write it in this form, x minus p squared equals q. That's what you have. This is what you're going to put into the box there,
Oh, okay.
like this. Now, I don't know if this one has a part 2 or not. You'll have to tell me.
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
Wait, x minus 3 squared.
Okay. So if that's clear, we can move on to the next one, which is very similar.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Rewrite the equation. It's the same thing here. I'm going to grab this equation, x squared plus 22x. Now this time I'm going to subtract it to the other side like that.
Uh-huh.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. And then again, I'm going to put the box here. I'm going to put the box here. It's a pretty straightforward formula. You cut it in half. You cut this in half. So what goes in
11.
the x plus 11 down here squared? What
Mhm.
goes back in this box?
Um, whatever 11 squared is, I kind of forgot.
Okay. 121.
121.
Okay. Yeah. And let me just, I do want you to be an active participant here. So let me put this in the chat. If you don't have your calculator, this is always a good one to use. Don't use your phone. Your phone's good for making calls and texting and apps, but not calculator. Let's use the right tool here. So what is minus 120.5 plus 121?
Wait, let me do that. Isn't that just 0.5?
Yes.
Oh.
And that's your final answer. So
Woohoo!
please check that and let me know if there's any there's part 2 or anything else.
There's no part 2, so we can move on to the next one.
Right. Right, so this is one of those that I didn't get right, but we'll talk about how to do now. It's very similar to what we've been doing. We're going to write x squared plus 12x equals minus 46.
Mm-hmm.
Just like before, I want you to tell me what goes
Plus
in.
36.
It is going to be plus 36. So this becomes x plus 6 squared plus 36 plus 36, which equals negative 10. Now, this is the first problem we've seen where when you take the square root of both sides, you have a negative number inside the square root.
Oh my
And that's
gosh.
bad.
That is bad. We have to do the imaginary numbers, right?
Yes. So this becomes I, and it's still plus or minus square root of 10.
Okay.
To undo addition by 6, you subtract 6, but you always put this in front.
Mm-hmm.
That's the preferred way to do it. All right, so x equals minus 6 plus or minus I square root 10.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. This one is really similar to the last one. Do you want to give this one a try?
Yeah.
Okay. And I will definitely confirm your answer before you enter, but just it's the same thing. It ends up being a negative square root, so it's gonna have an I in it.
Okay. I'm gonna let you know when I get my answer.
Sure.
Wait, did you get a negative in the square? Because I
Yes.
haven't.
Yes.
Oh,
You
you
should
did.
get x plus 3 squared equals negative 46.
I got the x plus 3 squared, but I put it equal to 64.
Okay, but when you oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. It is 64. I apologize. This does not have a, excuse me, this does not have a square root of a negative. This works out nicely.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry about that.
Okay, I got negative 11 and 5.
So negative 11, comma 5. Any of those a try? See what you come up, see if that's okay.
Yep. Okay, we can move on to the next one. Oh, wait.
Right.
That was the end of that assignment. So now we're
Yes.
going on.
Yeah, so that the next one is the more difficult, completing the square. This, I think the question one, if you want to double check, make sure it hasn't changed. The numbers haven't changed.
Literally. Okay, wait. Okay, yeah, we're good.
Okay, so it's the same first step. It's the same adding the constant to the other side of the equation. You are leaving a space like this. What's different, and this may be different than what you saw in the classroom, is I'm going to have you factor out the number, the leading coefficient from the first two terms.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, forget about this number on the outside for the moment. What what does the completing the square look like for this part, this line right here? Like imagine there's no three, it's just a parenthesis or not even there. What would you write down here below?
I would write x plus 3 squared.
Why three? There's three
Oh,
is
well
it's a
then
two.
1.
Yes. So you take half of this number and then you still square it. So what is one squared?
1.
Plus one. Now, how does this top line and the second line, how are they related? What did I do to go from the first line to the second line?
Divided by 3.
So if you multiply by three, what would go in this box?
3,
Plus
right?
three. And that's what
Yeah.
you add to both sides.
Wait, okay, how do you know to do this rather than what we were doing before?
There's a number in front now.
Oh,
That's the
okay.
difference.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, that makes
So we're
sense.
not done. We're not like we
Oh,
have more to do, but like, are you okay up to this point?
yeah.
Sort of. Okay. So this is what we're really solving now. So you first divide by three. So you have x plus one squared equals three. And then what do you do from here to solve this?
You square root the 3 and then you subtract the 1 to the other side.
Okay. So like you just said, plus or minus, subtract one. So your answer is negative one plus or minus the square root of three.
Yep. Okay. Negative. Okay, perfect. We can move on to the next one.
All right. So did that work out?
Yeah.
Actually, I think I skipped one.
Did you?
Yeah, maybe this one here.
Yeah, that's the second problem.
Okay. That's odd. All right. You ready to move on to this one?
Yeah.
So to answer the question you just asked, like the difference between this and the ones we did in that first assignment is there's a number in front that's not one.
Mm-hmm.
But you still start out the same way. You add the constant to the other side. 2x squared minus 2x equals 1. There's still a space to fill. Still a space to fill. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
like that. So no big deal there. Now, you do factor out whatever the leading coefficient is. So 2, you have x squared minus 1x, like that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the first one that's not friendly. What I don't know how else to say it. Like it's not an even number. Even numbers divide well. Um, odd numbers do not. What is half of one? Negative one?
Negative 0.5.
Yeah, negative one half. And then
Negative
what is negative one half squared?
negative 1/4.
Positive. Becomes positive.
Or oh yeah, positive, positive.
Positive 1/4. Now to make matters worse, you have to then eat, the second line here is the same as the first line when you multiply in by two. So you have to multiply 2 times a fourth. That's what goes in the box.
That's like a half.
Yes, plus a half, plus a half. And so you're just constantly dealing with fractions now. So this ends up being 3 over 2, 3 over
Mm-hmm.
2. And then you do bring this 2 down in front.
Mm-hmm.
So take a look at this. I guess let me know if there's any questions about this before we go too much further, because this one gets a little bit more complicated.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Like up to
All
this
right.
point.
All right. So the next thing is to get rid of the 2. We're going to do that by multiplying both sides by 1/2.
Mm-hmm.
So we have x minus 1/2 squared equals 3/4, like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you take a square root of both sides, it's the left side's fine, but on the right, it's the square root of this fraction. It ends up being the square root of the top over the square root of the bottom.
Oh my gosh. That's okay.
All right, so now the bottom ends up the bottom often ends up being a perfect square root.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we're at x minus 1/2 equals plus or minus the square root of 3 over 2.
Okay. Wait, I'm gonna take a picture of this.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. And
So then you're
then
going to add
we
1/2 to both sides, and that goes in front. So x equals 1/2 plus or minus the square root of 3 over 2.
Mm.
And I think we're getting close to the ones that might have had 2 parts to them. So just let me know if
Okay. Okay, I put in that one. So now we can move
okay.
on to the next one.
All right, so the next one, definitely gonna have you get more involved here on these. These are more like the ones from the first one. So
Yeah.
in the first assignment, it said to write it as x minus p squared equals q. Remember
Mm,
that from the previous ones?
yeah.
Okay. So vertex form is just moving this q over.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna
Oh.
do that. And what I want you to do here is, so you're gonna set this equal to 0. The
Mm-hmm.
first thing is you move the number over.
Mm-hmm.
So you have x squared plus 8x equals -9. So I want you to do this x minus p squared equals q. Tell me what this becomes on the left and the right.
Okay. That would be 16 plus 16.
I'm looking for this. I'm looking
Right?
for you to give me this form right here.
Oh, okay, okay. 1 second.
I agree that 16 is the number to add to both sides, but keep going.
Okay. I got parentheses x plus 4 squared equals the square root of 7.
You're not
Oh
taking a
wait.
square root. You're just putting that number on both sides like
Okay.
that. So
Sorry,
x
I was
plus
like
4 squared
7.
equals 7. So that's good. Now, vertex form requires you to move that number back over. So you're gonna subtract the 7 from both sides. This is what goes in the box. Let me just double check what you guys. Let me just see here how you're. Yeah, so that's what's gonna go in the box.
Okay, perfect. And then
All right, do you have any questions on that? Because the next one's really similar, so I really want you to try the next one on your own.
Okay.
As much as you can. I'm happy to leave up, anything from this one, but it's the same problem with different numbers for the one that says x squared minus 4x plus 5. But you're probably going to tell me this needs the vertex.
Yeah.
Okay. So the answer is you need to know vertex form.
Mhm.
The vertex is h comma k. Notice there's a subtraction operator in here.
Mhm.
So h is always the opposite sign of what's in here.
So -4.
-4. So your vertex is -4, comma, k is the number on the outside.
-7.
Yeah.
-4. Okay. Perfect. I think I'm ready for the next one, and I want to try to do it like by myself.
Yep. I like it. Yeah, give this one a try.
Okay. Okay. For y, I got parentheses x minus 2 squared, and then plus 1 equals y.
That is correct.
And then for the vertex form, that would be 2 comma 1.
Yes. Yeah, really good. That's a really good milestone to be able to do that on your own. Um, then they give you a problem that's awful. So we'll look at this one together. All right. So again, you set this equal to 0 and you write -3x squared minus 7x, leave a space, equals -3. Like I said, this one's horrible. I'm just surprised. So you're gonna factor out the -3 from both.
Mhm.
And you can see that this is where it becomes problematic. You've got a fraction here. Um, but it's doable. It's just that this is not the right kind of problem to do by completing the square, but sometimes they throw these in. So you need to
Mhm.
take half of 7/3 and you're multiplying. So it's 7/6.
Okay.
That's what comes down here. When you divide by 2 here, this becomes x plus 7/6. And then you square to go back up into this position. So when you square, you're squaring the top and the bottom. So that's 49/36. All right. And
Mhm.
then the next thing here is if you multiply this -3 in, you get back to the previous line. So you're multiplying -3 times 49/36. To do that, if you write down here, it's -3/1 times 49/36. There's this thing called pre-reducing, which you cancel out here to make this 12, because 3 goes into both. So this ends up being -49/12.
Mhm.
And that's what you're going to add to both sides here.
Okay.
Okay. So then then um, you have to make a common denominator on the right. So this is -36/12. So this becomes -85/12 with -3
Mhm.
here. And then you bring it back over by adding it to both sides. So adding 85 over 12 to both sides. So your answer is minus 3 x plus 7 over 6 squared plus 85 over 12. That is your equation.
Okay. And then we just leave the 3 there alone because it's vertex form.
Yeah, you leave it on the outside, yes.
Okay. -3. Okay, perfect. And then the vertex would be -7 over 6 and 85 over 12.
You got it. Yep.
Okay, now the next one.
Okay. The next one here, these are better. These are more what I was expecting you to have to do on your own. So we're gonna do part B to get part A, and it's just like what we've been doing. So you're gonna set the equation equal to 0, and
Wait,
you're gonna
actually,
move.
can I do this one by myself? Because I want to try it again.
Yeah, this is the starting point. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I'll actually be right back in 30 seconds or less, but I'll be right back with you.
Okay.
All right, I am back. Let me know if you have any questions or if you got the answer.
Okay. I think I have the answer.
Okay.
Okay.
Why don't I do this? Why don't I put some steps down here just in case you want to look at this later? And you can just stop me if you have any questions or if you notice anything about what's going on there.
Okay. I started to do the problem wrong, but then I fixed it. So it's good.
Oh, good, good. So again, you'll add 7 to both sides and you'll get what 7 down here. So this is part B. Part B is going to be y equals 5 parentheses x minus 3 squared plus 7. Part A is the vertex, which is 3 comma 7.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
How did you get the plus 45s that are in the box?
So you multiply everything by 5 to get back to the previous line.
Oh. Okay.
It's easy to forget that.
That was the one thing that I missed.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Okay, perfect. And then
Okay, just the A and B on that.
yeah.
All right. So these application problems here, I don't think we're going to need to. You don't need to do what we've been doing all the time. And this next problem, it's yeah. Let me just say, like everything we just did work for those previous problems. But when you get to these application problems, you kind of go back to doing it differently. Um, you can read this scenario if you want, but what's happening here is that something is going up and it's coming down. And they typically ask you questions about position one, which is the vertex, or position two, which is where it comes back and crashes down on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
When you read this here, where it says, how long after it is thrown upwards will it take the object to return to the original height at which it was released? Is that asking about one or two?
Is that 2?
Two. Yeah. So we're setting the equation equal to 0.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now leaving the square is just like one tool in your toolbox. You don't always want to use it. This one, you actually want to factor out a GCF. What is the GCF between 96 and 16?
16. And it
Yeah,
goes into 96 6 times.
Yeah. So you set both of these equal to 0, and you get t equals 0 and t equals 6. Which one is it looking for?
6.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. There's clearly a part B because it says part A. What is part B?
Okay. Part B is, oh my god. Okay, let me share my screen. That was like
Sure.
so much more than I was expecting. Okay.
All right. So yeah, this one's a bit more, got a bit more involved. So let me grab a quick snip of this and just the two parts. Thank goodness. You'd be surprised how many parts these things can have. So so here we go. It goes up, goes down. So at some point, it's 80 feet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we're setting the equation equal to 80. 96t minus 16t squared equals 80. To solve this, we're going to move everything to one side. Now I'm going to move everything right this time because I want the leading thing to be positive.
Mm-hmm.
So you get 16t squared minus 96t plus 80 equals 0. You can factor out a 16 from everything. That's a 6. So now you're looking for two numbers that multiply to 5 but add to negative 6.
1 and 5.
T minus 1, t minus 5, yeah.
Okay.
So you set the t terms, 16 you disregard. You set the t terms equal to 0.
Mm-hmm.
So you got t equals 1 and t equals 5.
Okay. Perfect. So it would be like the second bubble.
Let's see here. First we're at 1 second, then at 5.
Okay, yeah, perfect.
There you go.
Okay, and then the next one, it has 3 parts.
We'll see if we can get them all in. Uh, All right, so what's that middle number?
The middle is 128.
All right, so A is minus 0.4, B is 128, and C is 1200. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So again, it's typically asking you about either 1 or 2. The population will reach its maximum. They're asking about 1, but they're asking about the X value, which is minus B over 2A. So if you have your
Oh.
calculator handy, calculate this for us, please. It is a nice number. It does work out nicely.
Okay. Negative 128. Okay, I got 25.6.
Nope. So you have to divide. You have to assume there's parentheses around the bottom. You have to multiply first and then divide by that.
Okay.
You have a new answer for us?
Is it 160?
Yes.
Oh.
All right. So to do part B, you put 160 in for T, minus 0.4, 160 squared plus 128 times 160 plus 1200. So that'll be your answer to part B.
Hmm.
And then the last one is the hardest here. I'm doing this because we are running out of time. You can get that number. Minus 0.4 b squared plus 128 b plus 1200. You set that equal to 0. You're looking for where it comes down and hits the ground there. I would just graph it. I mean, I would just go to Desmos and graph it
Okay.
to see that. So let me I've got time now to check your if you want to try that first calculation. I've got that number up. It's pretty large. Um,
I got 11,440.
yes.
Okay, good.
And this will also be a nice number. It's I know you're not supposed to graph it, but we are running out of time, so I'm gonna just suggest you do that. It looks like, let's get this for you here. Wow, I'm really zooming out quite a bit. There it is.
Sorry, Desmos was taking like forever to load.
Yeah, this one actually didn't work out as nicely as I thought it would. I don't know if it says to round, but it says 329.115, something like that.
329.
Which I think typically they have you round to like 2 decimal places or more.
It's to the whole number, so we're good.
329. All right, we're gonna have to stop here for today. Maybe we didn't get through everything you wanted.